Hello and welcome to Reuters Events Pharma 2026. With me today I have Claire Dabro-Haling, the Chief Scientific Officer at Sandoz. Thank you very much for joining us today, and I'm looking forward to our little chat. It's going to be very interesting, I'm sure. I'd like to start by talking about Sandoz's role and impact. How do you define Sandoz's role in today's healthcare systems, and where do biosimilars and generics have the greatest impact for patients in your view?
First of all, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you. I think certainly biosimilars and generics have a huge role to play in healthcare. 80% of medicines that are prescribed are generic and biosimilars for 30% of the cost. Sandoz treats 1 billion patients as of 2025. And the impact we have in healthcare costs is $26 billion worth of savings across, globally, but also when you look at social impact, over $400 billion worth of social impact in terms of the way we play with biosimilars and generics. So certainly I think the role that Sandoz plays is an important one as we partner with other parts of the healthcare ecosystem to ensure that patients have access to medicines.
As Sandoz invests in its future pipeline and its manufacturing footprint, where do you see the next major areas of patient need, including in more complex fields such as ADCs?
I think Sandoz's focus is really to ensure that through understanding the needs of the patients and thinking of where technologies are evaluating, that we continue to invest in scientific and manufacturing capability and technologies. I think an evolving area definitely is in the biosimilar space, where we have new technologies like ADCs, the antibody drug conjugates coming through, where we're looking at how do you target drugs more appropriately with less side effects for the treatment of cancer. And in order to do that, the focus really has to be on continuing to invest. So we've invested quite significantly in biosimilar technology, building manufacturing and development capability in Ljubljana, spending over $1 billion in building infrastructure. We've recently acquired a facility in Toulouse in France to look at continuous manufacturing technology. So typically biosimilars are developed using fed batch technology, but now with the advent of continuous manufacturing technology, it gives us another string to our bow to be able to really accelerate the provision and development and manufacture of our biosimilars. So really continuing to invest in technology, in infrastructure, in skills and capabilities, and really looking at how do we expand what is already a rich pipeline, where we currently have 400 assets in the small molecule development, 28 biosimilars in development, and adding that to our 1,300 products that are already in the market treating patients. So this is really where Sandoz has been playing quite significantly, investing and ensuring that we stay ahead of industry in leading the generic and biosimilar industry.
Fantastic. Now, just talking about access, it's not only about developing medicines, of course, it's about getting them to patients more quickly and more efficiently. Where do you see the biggest opportunities today, whether through collaboration with patient organizations or through streamlining biosimilar development and regulation?
Well, I think you speak about access. Access is an ecosystem. The ecosystem of access involves industry, it involves the regulators, it involves government. It involves working with patent offices to understand how do we, as a generic and biosimilar player, have access to putting medicines on the market. Our focus has always been to bring the generic or biosimilar at the very earliest opportunity. And as we work with these different parts of the business and really looking at how do we have a conversation with the government about generics and low-cost medicines doesn't mean low-complexity medicines. So there's complexity in many areas. So there's complexity in needing to maintain compliance. There's complexity in needing to execute science and provide the manufacturing of the products to get there. And having a price conversation with the governments and also the regulatory framework that's necessary to advance the approval of medicines. One of the things we're particularly proud of is having been at the table from the beginning of the conversation of regulatory streamlining for biosimilars, which means that we no longer need phase 3 clinical studies. And with the removal of these phase 3 clinical studies, we're now able to develop biosimilars faster, more cost effectively, and again, bring those biosimilars to patients a lot earlier. So from an access point of view, biosimilars historically were always second-line therapy because of their price and availability of biologics. Now that we can bring biosimilars more cost-effectively and earlier, it gives the patients opportunity it gives the medical prescribers the opportunity for biosimilars to potentially become first-line therapy in certain diseases, particularly oncology and cancer treatment. So I think that really speaks to the whole access agenda, where we look at how do different parts of the ecosystem collaborate together, have the right conversations to make sure that we're able to get these products to the patients.
Fantastic. Now, in Europe, the debate is increasingly about resilience as well as access, with the Critical Medicines Act putting supply security higher on the agenda. From Sandoz's perspective, what does Europe need to get right now, particularly when it comes to safeguarding the role of antibiotics?
I think regarding the role of antibiotics, I think what Europe needs to get right particularly is around understanding the pricing and understanding that investment and manufacturing and maintaining quality and supply for antibiotics is a challenge. Currently in Germany, it costs more to buy a pack of M&Ms than it does to buy a pack of antibiotics. And I think what's happened is that because of increasing pressure in prices, which is understandable from the governments, the competition has decreased. And in order to sustain the ability to continue to supply the market, we need to work with the government through the Critical Medicines Act to ensure that they recognize the value that a European supplier is bringing in terms of resilience, in terms of addressing any geopolitical concerns, and in terms of also ensuring that the patient can get their products.
Claire Dabro-Haling, thank you from Sandoz. It's wonderful to have your insights today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.